I'm Amy Kleinmolk, and I'm running for the Denver School Board at-large seat. I am the proud mom of 2 DPS students, a special education paraprofessional, and an education technology leader. I have over 2 decades of experience working as an advocate in education, from supporting at-risk youth to building innovative learning platforms to working side by side with our teachers in our classrooms. I entered this race because I believe that education is the last great equalizer, and I'm fighting to make sure that stays in place. My vision is clear. We need strong neighborhood schools in every community. We need to support our educators with fair pay, real resources, and smaller class sizes. Finally, we need to create safe and future-ready schools so that our students are protected and prepared for the future. For decades, DPS has followed a reformer playbook of privatization, closures, and competition, a failing strategy that I am fighting against. I am proud to be endorsed by the Denver Classroom Teachers Association and the Colorado Education Association. Together, we will fight to ensure that our teachers are protected so that they can deliver the very best education possible for every student in our great state. Thank you. Our city. Our state is important, but mostly our city, because I'm running for DPS School Board. Thank you.
What are the top needs of the school district? How are Denver Public Schools doing educating kids across the city? What is going well and what is not going well?
The most important thing is that every student has an equitable education. We also need to make sure that we are protecting our teachers by giving them fair pay and smaller class sizes so that they can do the real work. We need to rebuild the trust between DPS and our communities and our families. It is broken, and it is something that we need to rebuild, and we do that by being transparent. We have come a long way since the pandemic. We see that our schools are back to the same levels that they were at in the pre-pandemic age. But that is not good enough because we still have a major divide in our city between children of color and white children, and we need to fix that. It is not fair. And the way we do that is by making sure that our schools are resourced. All of them. We also need to make sure that we have the proper supports for every single student and that we are meeting the individualized needs of each community. I will work tirelessly by having constant engagement with communities so that we are working towards solving the problems that each community uniquely faces so that all of our children can thrive.
This next question was submitted by a DPS student. In light of the recent Evergreen school shootings, how will you protect students from acts of gun violence? What measures or plans will you put in place?
Safety is one of the most important parts of our education system. Children cannot learn if they do not feel safe. And the threat that our schools face by gun violence is terrifying to so many kids and families, and it has to stop. It is so important that we work at a state and federal level to come up with legislation that actually addresses the issues around gun violence. But what we can do as a school board is we can ensure that we have incredible mental health resources in every single school. That means counselors, psychologists, people who are trained in restorative practices to help our kids. We also need to have smaller class sizes so that teachers can connect with students and help build relationships so that we can prevent these things by seeing when kids are struggling and getting them the supports they need. SROs need to be trained in their bias, they need to be trained in restorative practices, and they need to be focused on being part of the fabric of each community, showing that they have the same values and working as mentors. We need to bring down the policing and have them there as a safeguard for the worst case scenario so that our children are protected no matter what happens, but that we are focused on the root cause, which is making sure that every student has the mental health supports they need.
Can you explain where the money to fund our schools comes from? And what changes, if any, are needed to ensure that the district has the money it needs to deliver quality educational opportunities to all students?
Roughly 50% of the funding comes from taxes, from our property taxes and income taxes, and the rest of the big chunk of money comes from state funding. The remainder of the funding comes from the federal system, the federal government, which is about 10%. DPS is one of the most underfunded school districts per pupil in the country, and that has to change. Part of the problem is that our hands are tied because of Tabor. And as I've been out talking with folks during this campaign, I have learned that so many people want to repeal the parts of Tabor that would protect our education system. It would allow for full transparency so that people understand where their money is going and how it is being spent without having to have every little thing on the ballot in the form of a bond or a mill levy. So, while the school board doesn't have the direct authority to do anything about Tabor, I will use my voice to make sure that we are thinking about how we can get funding into our schools, and so that we can focus on what we really need to be spending on in a full, transparent way so that every taxpayer feels safe and that they know where their money is going.
What K-12 personal experience most impacts your views on education? And is it relevant today?
Absolutely. I have worked as a special education paraprofessional, working with some of the most at-risk youth, some of the highest needs kids in our district. And that has been the most transformative experience in my career. I've seen firsthand the resources that it takes to help all of our kids succeed. I have seen firsthand the struggles that our teachers are experiencing with class sizes that are far too big and without having the full resources that they need for their classrooms to succeed. And that is why I am running for this position, because I know that my voice is strong. My voice is rooted in my experience being in a classroom, being there to support our educators and our students, and doing the hard work on the ground of actually working with students and families and engaging constantly with them to better prepare their children has made me uniquely qualified for this position, because I know how to lead through engagement and interaction with community.
How do you see the role of charter and innovation schools in the DPS system? How should the board ensure that all schools, regardless of governance model, offer high quality and equitable opportunities?
The first thing we need to do is to make sure that every school is held accountable and is forced to have the same transparency. That is key. We cannot have schools that can waive rights so that they can protect themselves and not be fully transparent. We also have to make sure that we are holding every single school to the same standards. And that's not just test scores. That has to do with what supports are we offering kids in schools. Every school needs to be serving our students, regardless of where they are. So if kids need special ed, if kids need gifted programs, whatever it is they may need, it is our responsibility to make sure that every school is delivering on that promise. We've gone very far with the privatization of education in our state. And the model of competition has really hurt us. What we need to do is we need to bring schools together. We need to learn from each other, regardless of the label of what your school is. And that being transparent will allow us to do that, because it doesn't matter if you're a charter school, an innovation school, or a district-run school. If we are sharing what is working and what is not, we are collectively bringing DPS together and strengthening every school. And I believe that that is the answer.
Your website states, "We must provide all of our schools with the resources necessary to support differentiated instruction." How can you assure voters that those students who need differentiated instruction will receive what they need from the DPS system?
It It is something that I believe in so strongly and something that we must fight to ensure. So the way we do that is by looking at a different system of how we evaluate our students. Currently, we evaluate our students mostly on test scores, and that is not an individualized way of looking at students or at how we are looking at the collective achievement of our students. So what we need to do is we need to look at the whole child. We need to start by looking at our kids at school. What does attendance look like? Are they getting the supports they need at home? Are they thriving in school in social, emotional, and all the other ways that we see schools serve as a microcosm of society and how kids learn how to be civil servants in their own way. And so we have to be able to measure those things. So the first thing we would do is look at how are we going to measure it? And then we work backwards from how we're going to measure it. And we start thinking about how we implement programs that help kids. And I think there is tremendous opportunity to do that with our teachers and by adding resources, by making sure that our teachers are supported with the specialized staff that can meet the unique needs of our students. Technology is also an amazing way that we can empower our teachers to build curriculum that is individualized, and with their support and their guidance and critical thinking, that can be a huge success. I'm Amy Kleinwolf. I am running for the at-large seat for Denver School Board. I have over 20 years of experience building coalitions, solving big problems, and finding resources where others see scarcity. That is the leadership that I will bring to the board. We have a divided city right now when it comes to education, and it is my belief that we need to come together. We need to put our differences aside and we need to focus on the greater good for our students. And that is what I will do. It is something I have done in every piece of my career, and I will continue to do it on the board. I am proud to stand with our teachers. I am proud to have worked as a special ed paraprofessional. I am proud to have been an innovative leader in technology, specifically around ed tech, and I am proud to have been an advocate for education. All of those things have brought me to where I am today to lead on the school board, and it is something that I will continue to do as I move forward. I'd love for you to learn more about my platform at amyfordenver.com. And please do not forget to vote on November 4th. It's extremely important, and everybody deserves a say in what happens with our school board. Thank you.